Hello, this is Dr. Scott Harrington coming to you live from my virtual doctor's office at veganprimarycare.com, where you can see a vegan doctor as your primary care doctor virtually from most US states. But not just as a one-time consultation, but as your primary care doctor, someone who gets to know you, someone who can be your health advocate because I'm licensed in most US states. Even if you move, I can still be your doctor. If you are vegan, then get a doctor who gets you. But if you haven't adopted a plant-based diet yet, you are still welcome to be my patient. But beware, diet, exercise, and lifestyle changes will always be my first recommendation. My goal for you is to take control of your health. And through the power of a healthy lifestyle, we will work to heal your chronic conditions and help you get off your chronic medications. You may have heard of our announcement starting May 14th that we are going to add in-person visits due to the increased demand to be seen in person. The office is located in Pinellas Park, centrally located between Clearwater and St. Petersburg, Florida. We will be co-located with the outstanding pulmonologist and sleep doctor, Dr. Michelle Zatuni. She's a classmate of mine from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, is graciously giving us the space we need to see patients in person. With in-person visits, you will be able to do things like work physicals, school physicals, as well as any in-person specific exams that you need. In other announcements, we will now be offering at Vegan Primary Care for our patients free weekly weight loss check-ins. With this weight accountability visit on a private group Zoom meeting on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard. This is where we will share our weight loss tips and tricks among the vegan primary care community. If you're one of my many patients interested in, you can simply sign in to your Zoom link, my virtual doctor's office address, and join the meeting. I look forward to seeing you there and sharing your success stories and useful tips that you have to help all of our members succeed in their weight loss journey. Remember that this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This video is not intended to take place of your own doctor's advice. Okay, we are live streaming in multiple platforms, ready to take your questions. Okay, let's take a look. All right. Before we start, there were some things. We have some special guests today. All right. Here is special guest, Mr. Broccoli. Mr. Broccoli, I was keeping him hydrated. I was keeping Mr. Broccoli hydrated. You know, I had him in some water so that he wouldn't dry out so that I could eat him. But then I noticed that he's kind of started to grow a little bit. And then I picked him up and I noticed that he was trying to grow. He didn't want to be eaten. So he's gonna live in my backyard. We're gonna like let him grow and prosper over here. Mr. Broccoli, special guest. All right. We have another special guest today. Another special guest. In another life, I had a online persona called the free range vegan who would find edible fruits and vegetables growing around in the natural environment. And I would, sample them and take videos and stuff. So that was kind of all in fun. And so I wanted to show you there's an invasive weed that was growing out of my driveway. And I wanted to introduce him today, him or her, this invasive weed that should be invading your salads. And it's Mr. Purslane. Mr. Purslane, here we go. Invasive weed that should be invading your salads. I'm in Florida, but this Purslane has made it into some mixed greens, sometimes mixed salad bags and stuff like that. You see it around. But it grows crazy wild. And then each one of these little yellow flowers will turn into a little seed pod with a million little dark seeds, little round seeds. You could let it go to seed and you could spread it around and it grows. And it's great. It almost looks like a succulent, but it's not really a succulent. And it's it's kind of sweet and it has a good crunch. Yep. Purslane. It's awesome. Okay. All right. another another special guest today is these little tangerines. What do you call them? They're the cuties, the little, I forget what you call them, but one of the things that some people will peel the cuties and, and pull off each little slice. But when I'm in a hurry, I just want to take the little cuties and I kind of invert them like that. And it's super fast. One of my favorite things to do. All right. Okay, we've got Sonia Jenkins. Boom, boom. All right. First off, I want to say hi to my folks who are on. All right. And here we go. Okay, Sonia, is it better to consume the special guests, the purslane and the broccoli and all these things, cooked or raw? Well, if you eat them raw, you're going to get the most benefit out of the most green leafy vegetables and broccoli. And in broccoli, and specifically, it has a cancer-fighting compound called sulforaphane. And what you have to know about this is sulforaphane, the enzyme that helps to break down the sulforaphane, is in the cell wall of the broccoli. And when you chew it, it releases this enzyme that can turn the sulforaphane precursors into the active component sulforaphane. So if you can't, sulforaphane is heat stable, but it won't be formed if you cook it first before you eat it. If you chop it, to a certain extent, some of this reaction will take place within 30 minutes to an hour before you cook it. The chop and hold method, you'll get sulforaphane and it's heat stable so you can cook it. But foods that have been flash frozen and stuff like this, and you cook it, you can end up destroying the enzyme, so you don't get the sulforaphane from your broccoli. But if you eat the broccoli raw, that process takes place in your stomach, and before it's broken down by the acid, so you get the sulforaphane. So if you want to eat cooked broccoli, do the chop and hold, and you'll get all that benefit. The sulforaphane will be made before you heat it. There are talk about certain compounds being available when you cook things. I'm not a completely raw vegan. I'm not saying that's a bad way to go, but you should have a mix of raw and cooked. That way you can get a variety. Certain things like lycopene with tomatoes, I believe, is more available when tomatoes are cooked. So it's not a 100% raw recommendation. Yes, Janeri says that they are mandarin oranges. Yes, I had a brain freeze right there for a second. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So yeah, that's the story about the raw versus cooked. I will say that when I meet raw vegans, they tend to be low body weight. And my assumption is that when a completely raw diet is consumed, some of the nutrients are a little bit harder to absorb, and so they can eat a lot of food and stay thin, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Certainly, I recommend everyone consume B12 and vitamin D, but there's usually no issues with nutrient deficiencies by any means. Sometimes I don't recommend the raw diet simply for the problem of it's not typically the way most people eat. Most people are brought up, cooking all their meals, and so if you're dealing with being overweight and you want to switch your diet, I say keep it simple. Switch the foods into foods that are healthier substitutions, as opposed to dramatically switching your diet to completely raw. Okay, so I did want to bring up something today, something that some folks have been wondering about, is phytic acid, phytates. There's a book, The Plant Paradox, and it's been brought up to me, hey, doc, I don't know about eating all these plant foods, because there's this book called The Plant Paradox, and It suggests that some of these foods contain anti-nutrients or things that could harm me. And I'm not sure about this. And I think that this book has caused a lot of harm for us. Certainly decreasing the amount of plant foods you eat and limiting them, or trying to worry about which ones should I eat and which ones should I not, creates a lot of confusion. And then before you know it, you're eating, rice and chicken every day, So the phytic acid is a compound in beans, legumes, and grains and nuts, and it contains phosphorus. And the concern in the book is that these will bind as an anti-nutrient, that it will bind to iron and other heavy metals and other trace minerals, and therefore somehow you would become nutrient deficient, or that it would create a lot of disturbance in your stomach, upset stomach and all this stuff. So beans need to be cooked. Yes, that's true. Beans need to be cooked. But as for the other things, different grains and nuts, you don't necessarily have to soak your nuts or grains. Cooking, germinating, soaking, and fermenting will decrease the phytates, these anti-nutrients in the beans and legumes and grains. So for instance, cooking will take out 4 to 8%. Germinating will take out 35 to 39% of the phytates. Soaking, 61 to 76% of the phytates. And fermenting, 82 to 98% of the phytates. And you say, well, hey, maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should be doing that. But the problem is this phytic acid, even though it is an anti-nutrient with metals, it has so many other benefits in your body. And so some of the benefits that we have is that it can bind with other heavy metals like arsenic and mercury that could potentially contaminate the diet. It increases the immune system, the natural killer cells, the things that help to fight cancer and other immune aspects. Decreases cancer migration, the spread of cancer. It helps with what they call iron-mediated oxidative stress and free radicals related to the heavy metal of iron. It can inhibit cancer growth, various cancers. So they take these phytates, they put them in a petri dish and on different cancer cell lines, and you're getting dramatic reduction in the different cancers: pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, bone marrow cancers. Dramatic improvement, and they reduce the risk of kidney stones. So don't buy the hype on this anti-phytate type diet. You should include beans and grains and nuts in your diet, definitely. Okay, let's see if we got some new comments. All right. Okay. Gina asks, how can we increase our water percentage of our body? Okay. Well, I don't think you want to increase the water percentage per se. The body has amazing thermostats and amazing homeostasis. So we keep our body at a certain temperature. We keep our body at a certain pH. And the variety of trace minerals and things, and calcium and electrolytes, their body keeps them in a perfect balance. The kidneys do. And so depending on how much water you drink, your body will turn on the spigot and have you urinate more, or turn the spigot down and you're urinating less. So it is important to drink, to make sure you're drinking water. You'll hear all sorts of recommendations. Oh, we need this many liters, that many liters. My recommendation is to avoid being very thirsty. If you're in a hot environment and you're sweating, you need to be drinking. But when you eat a diet that's high in water content vegetables and fruits and vegetables, a lot of times you don't need to be downing a lot of water, because there's a lot of water content in the fruits and vegetables. You'll notice that if you eat things like chocolate or chocolate bar, or you're eating things like potato chips or crackers, these foods are dehydrated, and they're like net water loss. Your body has to rehydrate them. So if you're eating things like dried fruit and this kind of thing, it's going to make you thirsty. So if you're feeling thirsty after a meal, it can kind of be a trigger for you. Like, wait a second, I just ate something very concentrated. And that's not really ideal because you're lowering you're increasing the nutrient density of your, you are having a small volume and having a lot of calories. The calorie density, not nutrient density. The calorie density is going way up, and you're going to feel hungry because you're going to have to fill up your stomach with this high calorie food that doesn't have a lot of volume. So be careful with that. Be careful. Okay. Okay, we have Sonia again. I just learned about fermenting food. I will be making some fermented kimchi. This is one of the foods that helps with, this is one of the foods that helps with gut health. Yes, so kimchi is great. I love it. It tastes amazing. I love to put it, you can mix it in salads. You can eat it by itself. And so in terms of gut health, though, I will like to say, there's this sort of concern about probiotics and eating fermented foods specifically for the gut health benefit. And the most important thing that you can do for your gut is avoiding foods that contain no fiber, like cheese and meat and milk and things like that, and eating foods that contain a lot of soluble and insoluble fibers. So plant foods, specifically like whole grains and insoluble fibers that contained in vegetables, fruits and vegetables. So this is what they call prebiotics. This is the substance that the bacteria inside your gut, the microbiome, this is what they eat. And so sometimes the idea of probiotics, this brings up the idea of probiotics. I hate to poo-poo the idea of probiotics because I know that a lot of people use them, but there's debate about the benefit of the probiotics when it's studied, and over and above just this plain old effects of eating a diet that's high in fiber. So fermented foods are not unhealthy, like kombucha and kimchi and things like that, as far as I know, that there's not a major significant health problem with it. And if it's tasty and if it's something that you like, include it. It's plant-based, do it. Okay. Alexander, hello. Do you take blood at your office and review it? I'm looking to see if deficient in as far as minerals and vitamins go. Okay, Alexander, good question. Well, I will be starting in-person visits starting this Friday in Pinellas Park, but we don't do labs on site, and I don't do any type of lab analysis in front of you. I do order labs, but this is something that is kind of a overhyped in terms of monitoring certain minerals and this and that. A typical visit may include follow-up labs to check if you're anemic with something called a complete blood count. It can check your blood shape to tell us other things about if you're deficient in things like B12. And we do a liver and kidney panel, a comprehensive metabolic, which it does contain lots of minerals and electrolytes. But in general, if you're taking a whole food plant-based diet, it's very hard to be deficient in nutrients. And so there's not a need to go chasing after every single nutrient. If there is a specific nutrient that you wanted to look up, yes, we could test it. But this is what I recommend people do. If you're worried that you're deficient in something, I recommend that you go to the Chronometer app. Chronometer is an app that it's a food logging app, and you put in what you eat, and it is taxing. It's a pain. You put in each thing, and then at the end of the day, it'll tell you, how much selenium you ate, or, some of these trace minerals that are kind of maybe not be apparent on the food label so this is what I recommend. This requires no testing. This requires just going on the Chronometer app. But if there's something specific that you want, we can test it. All right. So we have some folks on here saying that they are 6 years vegan. Okay, Alexander saying he's 6 years vegan. Sonia saying 4 years vegan. Proving day by day. It is interesting. When you start, you get a dramatic benefit. But then as you go along and you learn more and more techniques about how to, clean eating, healthy eating, you get better and better, and you can push through plateaus, weight plateaus, and get down to your 18-year-old healthy weight. So, every day I'm learning new things and getting better and better. Okay, Gina, so you're saying that you have a scale and it shows your water percentage. It shows a water scale in a lower level. I'm a pescatarian and do eat a lot of fruits and veggies. Okay. Well, I'm impressed, Gina. I actually haven't seen a specific scale that talks about body water percentage. I know that they have those impedance scales that you maybe goes through the feet, the electric current, and it can tell you your lean body mass and your body fat percentage. So yeah, I'm not used to seeing that number in terms of body water percentage. But you can intake water, but I would drink till you're a little bit past your thirst threshold. You're not feeling thirsty anymore, and you're urinating clear. But I mean, sometimes you can actually have water intoxication where, if you're just pounding water and you're not eating, you can develop electrolyte imbalances. So it's mainly if you're not exercising, you're not, drenched in sweat and losing a lot of sweat. It's just, drinking till you're to match your thirst and going from there. Okay. Let's see here. So we've got Sonia again. Dates and figs are dried fruit and the nutrients are amazing in them. Should we be drinking water after consuming dried fruit? Absolutely. Absolutely. I was talking to someone today about this book called Volumetrics. Volumetrics talks about calorie density. And when you're eating dried fruit, the weight of the food and some of the bulk in the volume has been removed, which is the water. So, definitely you're going to want to replace that. So yeah, if you're eating dried fruit, it might make you feel thirsty. This book just is not a plant-based book. You can see here that this is veggie soup versus a hamburger. But the joke is, here it is. You get this much veggie soup for like a fifth of a hamburger, and so this book is spot on. All the high volume foods that are going to make you feel full and going to engage those stretch receptors in your stomach are all plant-based. So as you go through here, even though this was written over 21 years ago, let's see when it was written. It was spot on with that concept. So yeah, this was 2000. Spot on with that concept. So basically, you're going to want to eat foods that are engaging your stretch receptors, that are low calorie density and high nutrient density. So, plant-based foods. You can eat a lot of them. It should be your job to eat. Eat yourself thin. Every day you should be eating. You should be kind of staying ahead of your cravings by eating high carb, low fat foods with vegetables on the side and fruit for dessert. These are ways to maintain your body weight without having hunger cravings. Okay. Kristen Ali, can you talk about the connection between eating meat and colon cancer? Okay. Absolutely. There's lots of things that can point the finger to why meat is a problem. But for colon cancer specifically, meat that's barbecued has a direct cancerous effect, oxidative stress effect on the wall of the colon. So we know that. We know that high animal proteins will increase IGF-1, which is a compound that is fertilizer for cancer. So we know that. We know it has no fiber. It has no fiber, so it slows down the colon and the toxic effect of the animal protein will, have more exposure to the lining of the intestines. We also have the percentage of your plant-based food versus meat-based foods will push out some of the carbs. They push out some of the carbs, which your body, the whole grains and fibers, which your body, the bacteria will turn into short chain fatty acids, these butyrate. So butyrate is a protective compound for the lining of the intestines and colon. So in fact, when people have abdominal surgery where they have a colostomy, where part of the intestines may have a blind loop where it doesn't have a constant stream of feces going through it, it will not get that butyrate, that protective butyrate chemical that's from the bacteria that when they eat the carbs. And so people will get inflamed blind loop of their bowels, inflamed because it's not getting the protective stream of the bacterial produced butyrate. So that's the thing. There's also something, a cancer producing chemical called TMAO. So the body will take choline and animal proteins and meat, and they will turn it into, the bacteria turn it into a cancer causing compound called TMAO. So these are not the only ones. These are just the ones that come to my mind. So there's lots of issues, Thanks, Kristen. The World Health Organization said red meat, for instance, is a class 1 carcinogen and known to cause cancer. There should be labels. There should be labels on this stuff in the grocery store. Okay, Gina, I can only choose 3 supplements for the rest of your life. What would they be if I could only choose 3? I love this type of question. All right. Thanks, Gina. B12, we should all be doing B12. My recommendation is 500 a day. If you're under 50, over 50, 1,000 a day for the decreased absorption. There's other folks have more specific recommendations, but I find that if you're not doing something every day, you'll kind of forget. And that since it's water soluble, it's probably easier just to do it every day. You can do the cyanocobalamin. You don't have to do the more expensive methylcobalamin. Cyanocobalamin is cheaper and stable and just works just as well. Okay, that's B12. D3, you should take vitamin D. I personally don't walk around naked in the sun all day and get a lot of vitamin D exposure. So I personally stay locked up in my house with a bunch of clothes on and wear hats and stuff when I walk outside. Now, there's debate about natural vitamin D from the sun versus the benefit of vitamin D that you take. And some folks, some of the vegan royalty folks, like Dr. McDougall, for instance, recommends that you try to get your vitamin D as best you can from the sun too. But I recommend, my sister's a dermatologist, dermatology PA, and she cuts off cancers all day. And so I recommend trying to get it from the pill. It's very easy. So the third supplement, this is of debate. There is the omega-3s. Lately, there's been back and forth about the omega-3 supplements, whether it's really benefiting like we expected it to. And so that's when they study supplements. So I recommend getting your omega-3s from a whole food source through flaxseed, ground flaxseed that I eat every day, 1 to 2 tablespoons in my oatmeal. The body will convert that into EPA and DHA, the long chain omega-3s. And so this is something to do. If you decrease the amount of oils in your diet, the omega-6s, this omega-3 ratio to omega-6 ratio will be more favorable. So by reducing, vegetable oils and these harmful omega-6 fatty acids, you want to increase your ratio of the omega-3s. So that's up for debate, the omega-3. Okay, all right. Going down here, we have got Sherry, vegan for 5 years, diagnosed with Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. I'm reading a lot of conflicting info, and I'm having a hard time figuring it all out. I've started both levothyroxine and liothyronine. Any recommendations, or would you be an option for consultation if I schedule with an office visit? Yes, Sherry, absolutely. Hypothyroidism is, the experts on this are the endocrinologists, but it's such a common problem that most primary care doctors are well-versed in the treatment of hypothyroidism. And I'm well-versed in it. So the key for me is understanding how it was diagnosed. just in general, for the answer is yes. Yes, I can definitely see you, and I'm very familiar with hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's, and I can help you out. But I like to use the model of type 1 diabetes versus type 2 diabetes so people can understand whether they can come off their thyroid medicine or not. In type 2 diabetes, people need insulin, and but they produce their own insulin, but they're not making enough. So sometimes they need more insulin, but they're not making it at all. In type 1, I'm sorry, type 1, you're not making it at all. Type 2, you're making it, but you need more. So in type 1, you actually have to give insulin, and you never come off of insulin. And if you're lost on a desert island without your insulin, it's a big problem. So with hypothyroidism, some people who are found early on and their thyroid looks a little bit irregular, people will sometimes get started on thyroid medication, but they won't know if their thyroid is totally burned out. If your thyroid is totally burned out and not producing thyroid, then you have to take thyroid medication. If you're lost on a desert island, it'd be a big problem for you without your thyroid medicine. And the way to find that if it's burned out, if your TSH, if you come off the medicine and your TSH is over 10, but this would be something that you would want to talk to your doctor about. Okay. All right. We're actually at time. So I will take time to answer these other questions that have managed to come off the edge here for me before I answered it. But I wanted to thank everybody for coming out. Once again, I wanted to remind you that on Tuesday nights starting at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard, the patients who are my patients with vegan primary care will have the ability to do a weigh-in and sharing, knowledge sharing about weight loss techniques. That we're starting that up next week, so that's going to be good. And thank you for coming out today, and we will see you again next week at 12 noon Eastern Standard. Bye-bye now.